بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah ta'ala, as we move to another text, we wanted to take a break to have some scattered thoughts and some scattered readings. Scattered thoughts as reflections on important matters that we should pay attention to. And scattered readings is to go through the different books that we have covered and some that we have not covered to highlight certain points. One of the things I wanted to clarify today briefly, and I'm not going to be long, probably 25 minutes tops, is the term Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah refers to the people who authentically follow the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they make up the vast majority of the Muslim nation. I described it with these words for several reasons. So you should pay attention to how I translated that. I translated it by way of what is intended, not necessarily literally. So when we say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, I said that it identifies the people who authentically follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who correctly follow the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his way, and they make up the majority of the ummah of the nation of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what is intended by the term Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So if you understood what is intended, you can understand what is excluded. What is excluded, or who are excluded, are those who don't authentically or correctly follow the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they don't make up the majority of the Muslim nation. So there's a clear distinction there. So in the Muslim nation, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and you may translate that in English when you say Sunni Muslims. What is meant by Sunni Muslims in the classical, traditional Islamic understanding among the majority of the nation? When we say Sunni Muslim, when we say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, what is traditionally, classically, historically, globally understood by the vast majority of Muslims are the Ash'ariyah or the Ash'ariyah and the Maturidiyah in creed, in the field of Al-Aqidah, in belief. They are Al-Ash'ariyah wal-Maturidiyah, right? the Asharis, and the Maturidis. In al-fiqh, they are the Hanafis, the Malikis, the Shafi'is, and the Hanbalis. And in spirituality, they make up the various Sufi paths or at-turuq as-sufiyya, right? So this may be a term that many of us may not be familiar with. So at-turuq as-sufiyya. We also call it a Sufi tariqa. So that turuq as-sufiyya, those Sufi paths, are many. There are famous ones and there are ones that are not so famous, but they are legitimate Sufi paths. What you may notice that three sciences are mentioned when identifying Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah: the science of Aqidah, the science of Al-Fiqh, and the science of At-Tasawwuf. And we notice in the previous book we just read, Al-Maqasid for Imam al-Nawawi, he divided his book into 7 objectives, and each of those objectives fit within 3 sciences. So he talked about Al-Aqidah in the first objective. Then he talked about, from the second to the 6th objective, he talked about Al-Fiqh, Al-Ibadat, Tahara, prayer, Zakat, fasting, and Hajj. So that's Al-Fiqh. And he was talking according to the Shafi'i school. When he was talking about Aqidah, he was talking about the Ash'ari school. And then he made the last objective in the science of Tasawwuf. So this is Imam al-Nawawi, lived in the 7th century. He died in the year 676. And every Muslim who is a practicing Muslim, they know Imam al-Nawawi. So you'll notice from his book, he indicates to us clearly that he is Ash'ari, Shafi'i, Sufi, right? And if you study historically and globally, you're going to notice the majority of Islamic scholars had this approach. They followed a certain methodology in Aqidah, either Ash'ari or Maturidi. They followed one of the 4 schools, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. And they were practitioners of at-tasawwuf. Whether they followed a particular tariqah or not, the foundations of tasawwuf, as Imam al-Nawawi mentioned, was their practice. What should be understood from this is that's Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They are the Sunni Muslims. Now, outside of that, and it is a reality, there is an outside of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. There is an incorrect way to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And there are factions who have deviated from the majority of the Muslim nation. So they are outside of the body of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Let's get an understanding of something. In our time, truth and falsehood have been mixed. Sunnah and al-bid'ah have been mixed. Al-iman and al-kufr, belief and disbelief, have been mixed. So what do I mean have been mixed? You have elements of truth and elements of falsehood combined. You have elements of sunnah and elements of bid'ah combined. You have elements of al-Iman and elements of kufr combined in a doctrine, in a methodology, and it's spread among the people. I would like to say to you all, be people who seek truth and clarification. Sometimes truth will be right in front of us and we'll ignore it for our own personal desire for something. In other words, I just want to get along, and to get along, I will even accept things that are not beneficial or that are quite harmful. I just want to get along. So I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to cause any disturbance. However, what you're allowing to exist is very detrimental to the very comfort that you want. It's a false comfort. So the issue is to clarify truth. So people of innovation, and they are separating from the majority, will present their methodology as the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which will cause confusion. So people who are not Ash'ari or Maturidi, they don't follow one of the four schools, they don't agree with Tasawwuf, and they would be considered Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. But they have a total opposing view of the beliefs, practices, and spirituality of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. But they will call themselves Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So the unsuspecting common person would run into them, hear the term Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and hear the term Sunnah, and hear all of that, and actually believe that they're the true proponents of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which is a mistake, which is not true. Add on top of that, when that becomes popular and famous, and a lot of times, sometimes I feel like really, really, really in a rough spot, right? Because in our community, as I've said many times, we've been hoodwinked. We've been duped. Not of our own fault. I say access and availability. So many of our leaders, imams, elders, didn't have access to the stuff we have, to the information that we have today. So by default, they fell into things that were wrong, and they promoted them, and they taught them, and they became known for those things. And it takes a lot to reverse that, right? It's because you develop an attachment, you develop love, right? You get a lot of things. And then when you discover that that was wrong, it is very difficult to make the appropriate change. You know, when I think of this issue, one of my teachers and friends, he's my teacher, friend, elder, like he has many titles with me. He said something to me last night, which made me think about this. And I had to tell you a story. He was one of the youngest African Americans to go overseas and study, among the first. I'm talking about way back in the early 70s, late 60s. He was on it. Mostly every popular speaker you see today in the Black Muslim community was his student. It took him a long time to admit to me that he was among the ones who brought the Salafi da'wah to America. And he doesn't like it. He's very pious, elderly man, Sufi sheikh, but he was among the ones who originally brought the da'wah of so-called Salafiyya, which in reality was the da'wah to the Wahhabiyya, to American Black communities. Every popular speaker was his student. You just don't know him, right? And I won't mention him. One day I'm bringing him. I'm just trying to boost him up. He's old. He doesn't like all this stuff. But he loves me, so he'll do it for me. But I just have to get there and arrange everything. But he called me last night. And he said, you know something? A lot of these guys are finally admitting that they were wrong. But it's hard for them to take the full steps because they have so many relationships, and it's hard to tell somebody, yo, we was all wrong. Some of them are imams, some of them are popular speakers on the scene, So he was asking me, how do we go about it? And he talks to them. And a lot of them, they don't like my straightforwardness with these issues. I don't play politics. I'm straightforward, straight shooter, right? So I don't do Wahhabism at all. Wahhabism. I don't care what you call it. I don't do that. That doesn't mean I'm your enemy. But if you come with me with Wahhabism, I'm going to tell you that's Wahhabism. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to attack you, but I'm not going to let you spread that in my presence. No way. Not going to happen, right? Not because of me. I believe, personally, this is only my belief. Someone else can believe something else. I think that's the most dangerous innovation that happened to African Americans. In general, it's the most dangerous innovation that has happened in recent times to Islam, but especially in the African American communities. We were devastated by that stuff. So for me, it's always clarification. And sometimes I rub people the wrong way because people will be talking in an authoritative way, and I'll be like, that's Wahhabism. That's Wahhabi ideas. That's not Sunni. Even though you are Sunni, but that's Wahhabi stuff you're talking about. You just don't realize it. So what does that mean? That means a person outwardly think he's Sunni, but because of the lack of access and availability, people be reading Wahhabi books, listening to Wahhabi lectures, and reading Wahhabi stuff in the name of Ahl Sunnah. That's how they get confused. So a person will pick up a Wahhabi book with a Sunni's name on it and doesn't realize that that's not a Sunni book. That's a Sunni name on the cover, some Sunni stuff mixed with Wahhabi ideas. But they would read the whole book because they're not perceptive readers. They're not critical readers. They would read the whole book and make it one when it's actually two different methodologies and they didn't realize it and no one was there to tell them. For instance, unfortunately, if one wants to read Sahih al-Bukhari, most likely one's going to go and buy the 9-volume set from Dar es-Salaam. And then it says Sahih al-Bukhari. But one doesn't realize that that's not Sahih Bukhari alone. That's Sahih al-Bukhari with Wahhabi commentary and Wahhabi footnotes and Wahhabi parentheses and emphasis and Wahhabi translation. Imam Bukhari would have rejected such a book but we read it, think we're reading the Hadith of al-Bukhari. There is the Hadith of Bukhari is there, but it's been tampered with by al-Wahhabiyya. So the ideas you see in the book are Wahhabi ideas, not the ideas of Imam al-Bukhari, even though his name is on the book. Likewise, you read the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, and then when you go get it, you get this Dar al-Salam tafsir translation, which is a Wahhabi translation of the book. So there are things in there that you would attribute to Ibn Kathir that he was free of, because the Wahhabis did the book. And that happens to a lot of the books. Books of Imam al-Nawawi, books of al-Qurtubi, books of all of those books of classical Sunni scholars have been tampered with by the Wahhabi. And which makes it even more difficult, they changed the name Wahhabi to Salafi. And you don't know what a Salafi is. You think a Salafi follows the Salaf, the early Muslims, when the Salafi is a Wahhabi with a new name. So that makes it more complicated. And then you go to that Salafi Wahhabi masjid, it says Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now you're more confused. If someone doesn't clarify this for you, you will become a Wahhabi and not even know it. That's what we call default Wahhabi. So it's important that at some point we clarify things so we don't stay in the same condition. If this was secular education for your degree, for your field, your trade, your career, you wouldn't accept it. If you knew that you signed up to a class or a course and it was all fraudulent, would you accept? And you paid your money for it. You're going to end up with a fake degree, but you paid thousands and tens of thousands. Or the teacher was not really qualified, wasn't a real professor. That one day that's going to be discovered and it may cost you a job. Would you accept? None of you would accept, right? Right? What do you spend? So this is what's happening in the name of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, as Sunni Muslims. A lot of people, especially African Americans, we fell into Wahhabism trying to get away from the Nation of Islam. We fell into Wahhabism trying to get away from the Nation of Islam. Right? So when they say I'm a Sunni, that means I'm not in the NOI. But we never really knew what Sunni Islam was. In fact, we were talking about Sunnis, but we were Wahhabi and didn't know it. We had Wahhabi ideas that was being spread in our community. And it's still. And now the most popular speakers and with all of the internet are Wahhabi speakers. They just call themselves Salafi. And then they're getting more dangerous that now they say, I'm not Salafi, but they're teaching those same Wahhabi. And that's what I was telling the Sheikh yesterday. He said, you know, the chat said, they haven't changed. They're just playing games, politics. He said, what do you mean? I said, they say I'm not Wahhabi. They wiped that out. Now they say I'm Salafi. Now when the Salafis are being exposed, they say I'm not Salafi. But if you study what they're teaching, the books they're teaching, the scholars they're referring to, they're all Salafi, Wahhabi scholars or the influencers of them. So all of them, no matter what they said with all that, they're going to read the books of Ahmed ibn Taymiyyah. They're going to read the books of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. They're going to be reading the books of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. They're going to be reading the books of Ibn Uthaymeen. They're going to be reading the books of Bin Baz. They're going to be reading the books of Salih Fawzan. They're going to be reading the books of Rabi al-Madkhali. They're going to be reading the books of Muqbil. All of these have the same ideas, no matter what you call them. They may differ with each other in this issue, this issue, this issue. But when you take the root of it, it's all the same stuff. So no matter what you call yourself, the ideas you're spreading are the same. Do y'all follow that? No matter what they call themselves, the same name. So if I never say Ash'ari at all, I don't say Ash'ari. I never use the word, but I teach the creed of the Ash'ira. And I never ever say Ash'ari. But that's all I teach is Ash'ari books, Ash'ari scholars, Ash'ari everything. But I never say I'm an Ash'ari. What am I? An Ash'ari. Even if I don't say it, I'm spreading the ideas of the Ash'ira. If I teach fiqh and I teach all the rules according to the school of the Shafi'i, but I never say I'm following the Shafi'i school, but every book I teach is a Shafi'i book. All the rules are consistent with the Shafi'i school. What am I? I'm a Shafi'i. If I never say I'm a Sufi, ever, but I follow a Tariq al-Rifa'i or a Tariq al-Qadiriyya or a Tariq al-Alawi, any of the Turuq al-Sufiyya, and that's what I teach, their methodology, their awrad, their shuyuk. What am I? A Sufi. No matter what I call myself. Do you follow? So if all you teaching is the books of that ideology, whether you call yourself that or not, whether you switch the name of that or not, you still teaching that. And that is the problem, not necessarily the name. It's not so much the name, it's what is being taught. And the name usually just identifies the teaching. But if you twist the name and use another name, but you teach the same stuff, the name's not going to change the fact of those bad teachings. Let me give you an example. There was a guy, and I got to get ready to stop. I'll send you tomorrow. There was a young brother right now, and he's studying in Al Medina. He was friends with my son. He used to come to my house, and he was a young, little, energetic young kid. And I love his energy, but he would come to my house, he wanted to debate. And I would say to him, you can't debate, you don't know enough. It's not a debate. You're gonna get beat up. He's young, because he's a boxer too, right? Those young kids, my son and all of them, they used to be boxers, whole crew of them, right? So I said to him, I said, you can't debate me, I'm gonna beat you up. You don't have enough knowledge to debate me. So it's not a debate, you need to just listen and learn. He said, no, I can defeat you. I'm going to refute you. Like, you don't have enough knowledge to refute. So, yeah, and I like your energy. I love the energy, but you're going to get smashed, right? It's like you getting in the ring with Mike Tyson. You can't box. You're going to knock you out. You get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. Even though you're the same size, you're a little bit bigger. He's a professional. He's going to beat you up, right? So that was my analogies I used to use to him, right? And he said, don't worry, I'm getting ready to go overseas. I'm going to University of Medina. And when I come back, I'm going to refute you. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to get beat up still. He said, what do you mean? I said, if you learn how to say kufr in Arabic, it doesn't still change it from being kufr. Listen to what I said to him. If you learn to say kufr in Arabic, it doesn't change the fact that it's still kufr. Can y'all put that up? If you speak kufr in Arabic, it's still kufr. Put that up. I think you need to really think about that. If you speak kufr in Arabic, it's still kufr. It didn't change because you said it in Arabic. Let me help you with that, Fatima. There you go. Did everyone copy that? You need to understand that. I think we fooled by that. And you can use other words. You don't have to be so harsh. You can say, if you speak bid'ah in Arabic, it's still bid'ah. If you speak dalala in Arabic, it's still dalala. If you speak misguidance in Arabic, it's still misguidance. If you speak vile innovation in Arabic, it's still vile innovation. If you speak disbelief and blasphemy in Arabic, it's still disbelief and blasphemy. It doesn't change because you speak in Arabic, right? So his idea is, I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia, I'm going to go to University of Medina, I'm going to learn Arabic, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to say the same thing in English that I was saying to you that you rejected. I'm just going to be able to say it in Arabic. It's still the same stuff. If you say Allah is above the throne in English with his essence or his self, that's kufr. Allah is above the throne with his essence and his or his self. That's kufr. So if you say Allahu fawqa al-arsh bidatihi, it's still the same kufr. It didn't change because you said it in Arabic. If you say Allah is sitting on the throne in English, and then you say Allahu jalisun fawqa al-arsh or ala al-arsh, it's still kufr, no matter how you say it. Arabic, English, Chinese, and French. It's still the same stuff. Do y'all understand? Are you following me? It doesn't change because you said it in Arabic. So that's the game they've been playing us. To come blazing in Arabic, saying the same ugly, blasphemous, innovative nonsense in Arabic. And we sitting there like, man, did you hear that Arabia? It's kufr. Regardless what he said, language he said. It's wrong. If you get my point. It's still wrong, no matter what language he said it in. If he thinks, he says, you know, Allah is a body, but we don't know how. So if he says that in Arabic, Allah jismun, right? Wala na'lamu kayfiyatu jismihi. This is kufr, no matter how you say it. Same stuff. It's kufr. You just said it in Arabic. It doesn't change. Allah is a body, but we don't know how his body is. And then that person, waliyadu billah, he says, Allahu jismun wala na'lamu kayfiyatu jismihi. This kufr. No matter how you say it, you just said it in Arabic. It's still blasphemous. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's still blasphemous. Doesn't change. Do y'all follow? So it ain't how you say it, what language, what name you use. It is what you're actually saying. And I think that should help you to I'm sorry, I gotta go. I gotta get on that roof. I'm running late. I'm working hard. At least that's what I think, right? So I gotta go. We'll pick up tomorrow. But does everyone understand my point here so far? Does everyone understand my point? Let me just close with one last point, because you hear these harsh terms, you may get kind of shook up. Not everyone who says kufr is necessarily a kafir. Put that up. Let's stop with that point. Not everyone who says kufr is necessarily a kafir. There's details to that. Not everyone who says kufr is necessarily a kafir. In every case, there are details, right? So because I say something is kufr, that doesn't always entail that the one who said it, I'm saying that person is a kafir. Sometimes it is the case, but not every time, right? So please, that little nuance, please keep it in your mind. Because I say this is kufr, it doesn't always mean that the one who said it, I'm going to consider them a kafir. Sometimes you may, but other times the judgment of kufr may apply to the statement, not to the one who is saying it, because there are details. Just keep that in mind. So don't be afraid to take on a statement because you're applying the ruling to this one who spoke the statement. That may not always be the case. We're talking about the statement itself, right? The statement itself is kufr. As for al-qa'il, the one who said it, there may be details. And we'll deal with the details according to that person. That doesn't negate that the statement is kufr, right? The statement is kufr. We're not denying that. So that's just an important point that I want to make, because a lot of times we'll leave something that is blasphemous there because we're afraid that the one who said it, we don't want to consider them a blasphemer. So we'll leave the actual statement or action or belief just because of the one who holds it. That has nothing to do with the issue. We're talking about the statement itself, or the belief itself, or the action itself. As for the one who it applies to, that's another judgment. All right, I'm sorry, I have to go. Please, listen, I need your help. I ask you, we have a lot of work, right? And I'm trying to get this finished before Sheikh Samir comes. I'm not going to get the whole thing done, but at least I can get the musalla done so that if it rains, we can just stay in the musalla and we have a little bit of rain in the community room. We can bucket that for the program if necessary. If it's a light rain, we don't got to worry about it. If it's a heavy rain, we have issues. But the musalla, we have to finish. So we're up there. So if you go to my Facebook page or the Facebook page of Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City, you'll see the work in progress and you'll see what we're doing. We actually have to tear the roof off, right? In some areas, because we're working time and rain and we only have a few days before it starts raining again, and we can't have that's a mess. So we have to do it. So we are trying to, for this first phase, raise $25,000 more dollars to finish this phase. And we're actually in the process. I just have a balance to pay the roofers, right? And we still have a whole nother bigger roof, another 8,000 square feet of roof to do. And we have to do that all the same thing. And it's worse than the first roof. Much more complicated, the system. So there's a lot of work going on. To give you an example, we're doing the work that a contractor, a real contractor that is good, would have charged us $250,000 to do. We're doing it ourselves. So we're saving, inshallah, when we finish, at least $150,000 to $125,000 by doing it ourselves. But doing it ourselves, you know, is a lot of work, right? Because we're not all skilled. So, but you know, it is what it is. So please, I give you the link. You can trace how close we are to that 25,000 by donating there, right? It's a lot of work. And we support you, support us. Let's put it that way. I don't mind supporting you. I support you every day. I don't ask you every day to support us. I'm asking you now, please help me get this done. When you look at that right now, we're at, quickly, let me look, towards the goal. Where are we? We're at, if you can see it, we're at 6,000 and something. 6,386 or 66. Can't see, I don't have my glasses. We have 15 days left. You get serviced every day, several times a day from this platform, from the work of Masjid Muhammad. And all they're asking you is for a little bit of help. I told you the real numbers, right? They're doing the numbers. And we're actually doing it physically. I'm physically on the roof, me, with others. brothers and some contractors, and we're physically on the roof all day long. From after this class to nightfall, we're up on that roof, right? So all hands are in. No one is on. I'm not sitting back saying, I'm the Imam, I don't got to do that. I'm just giving classes and lectures. No, I'm on there too, physically, with my construction clothes, with my boots, with my gloves, freezing, doing the work too. So let's get it done. And maybe the generous one among you can take it all and solve it. One of you guys, right? One big swoop, right? But we have to get this done. And you'll see the result when you come the weekend of Sheikh Samir's event, which is the 6th through the 8th. So we have to get this done. I'm trying to get it done in the next 3 or 4 days before the rain come again, because I don't want to deal with that again. And so far, so good. Inshallah, I got to go. Barakallahu bikum. May Allah reward you. And if you can't do anything, share it. Copy the link. Put it on every one of your Facebook pages. You don't know who's going to follow, but you know they got these algorithms or whatever, algorithms, whatever they call that stuff, that blocks the information from getting out. So we have to subvert that by us, each and every one of us. Even if you can't help, share it. Put it on your page. Post it till we reach the goal, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.